Hey everyone. You know, as a fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise and comic books for past 20-something years now, especially the comics that have been going on for about 24, almost 25 years now, it's it's hard to believe that we still have, as a fan base, still have this debate about certain things. Now, there is a topic over at the Archie Sonic Online that I guess got started because I was talking about something else as well, called the shipping problem. But what is a shipping problem? Well, a shipping problem basically doesn't just center or focus or relate to just the Sonic franchise. A shipping problem relates to any franchise, comic book, television, movie, you name it. But what is it, anyway? Well, basically, it's a fan's way. Basically, a shipping problem is a fan's equivalent of kind of basically in their minds shipping certain male characters with certain female characters because they feel they match up great, or because they're the same species, or if they want to take it over, or if they want to cross the certain line, they could say, well, we're going to pair certain male character with certain male character because what the hell, because they're similar, opposites attract. Same with female. And sometimes with female, it's more like, ooh, there's an attraction. Both are attractive, are drawn attractively, or described attractively and sexually. They'd be perfect together. But overall, the shipping problem is basically a fan's way of defining who they feel is better off with who. Now, when it comes to the Sonic comic book and the franchise in general, that basically is nothing uncommon. It's nothing new. Since day one, since the comic began, and if not day one since the franchise began, shipping has always been a focal point for Sonic, for the Sonic franchise, mainly deciding who Sonic gets paired with. Now, when Sonic SatAM came to the forefront in 1993, and even a little before that in 1992, when the early days of the comic were just, well, the roots of the comic, the foundation of it were beginning, the shipping wars kind of didn't really take off as much. You get to SatAM, they weren't taking off that much as well either. That is until around the same time that Sonic SatAM had been released on ABC, Sega decided to release Sonic CD. And it introduced us to Amy Rose. Now, long story short, the way Amy was introduced to us here in the United States was she was named, thanks to the manual that came with the game, she was named Princess Sally. How do I know this? Because I remember going into a Blockbuster one day with my family, trying to play the game a little bit, or looking at the game being displayed on a monitor, reading the manual that it was hanging from a little wire chain, reading the manual, and it's saying Princess Sally, and I think showing a picture of Amy. And I know that I was among a lot of fans at the time was like, that's not Sally, that's somebody else. And then I think later on that I figure out, oh, her name's Amy Rose, or Rosie the Rascal. But it wasn't until about that time frame when Sonic SatAM was around and Sonic CD had just been taken off here in the United States as well as in Japan, that the shipping wars, I guess you could say, started to find its rhythm. It started to find its foundation to be built upon. But it wouldn't be until the comics really came into play, as well as later on in certain parts of Season 1, and then mostly towards the end of Season 2, but in certain portions of Season 2 of SatAM, that fans kind of started to kind of debate, not just have a war or a problem, but they started to debate because of the fact that now you had Sonic kissing, hanging out arm in arm with Sally Acorn, a character that, with the exception of one cameo appearance in the bonus stage of Sonic Spinball as one of the characters that had to be rescued out of the capsules, she was never really an official game character. She never was. And so basically fans who were more supportive of the game didn't like the fact that Sonic was now hanging out with this non-video game character that was part of the franchise. They didn't like it. They didn't like it at all. Now, one could say you can't really blame them. And that's true, you can't. But when you're a fan of Sonic, and you see these different interpretations, and one interpretation, especially two, that are related to each other in a way, that are willing to take the Sonic character and expand on it, and the storyline and the franchise and expand on it, you really can't blame fans for wanting to support Sonic being with this one character. You can't. Because one, the way she was written in the show, and the way she was written at times in the comic, and even nowadays, it makes sense. Because she was the exact opposite of Sonic. She was a good foil that understood, okay, this is how Sonic is, this is who Sonic is, this is how Sonic is, this is who he is, this is what he does, but he needs someone to rope him in and make him realize, yeah, you could be like that and do all that, and that could be to our advantage, but you also need to have a plan to go with it. And that's where Sally's character came into play. So, I can understand, and sometimes, so I can understand from both forefronts how fans feel about, how certain fans from the Son Amy camp feel about Sonic being with Sally and vice versa. Especially at the end of Sonic SatAM, when it was pretty much confirmed that they were now a couple, and that was going to probably be tested and be built upon in the possible Season 3 that never got made. But again, seeing it from the Son Amy perspective on how they felt Sonic shouldn't be with a character that's not in the games, you could also see that same perspective from the Son Sally camp, because of the fact that here's this Amy Rose character that, okay, she didn't have that much of a spotlight put on her. Yes, she was put into the comics after issue 25. She was now part of the cast, she never really had much spotlight on her besides that, until Sonic Adventure came out, her redesign came around, and then that's when things really started to take off on both sides. Because now you had the Son Amy fans that in their minds had a legit gripe, had a legit reasoning for saying now Sonic can be with Amy because look, they're basically redesigned to be the same age, be the same, same age and be compatible with each other. But yet at the same time, when you go from the games to the comics, you had Sonic being with someone like Sally, which was the same thing. They were both the same age. They were both compatible with each other. Overall, basically, the shipping problem in the Sonic comic never really started until we got into basically, when you think about it, 1999, when Sonic Adventure happened. Now, as time went on, and of course over the past 16, 17 years, it's been up and down. Even after Ian Flynn did the soft retcon reboot, reset, if you will, on the continuity, but still kept it within the continuity, confusing, right? It's still there. There's a lot of fans, including myself, and I'm not afraid to admit this, that want Sonic to be with Sally because the way Amy's been designed, yeah, she has a crush on Sonic. She acknowledges that, but she's been redesigned personality-wise in the comics that, yeah, she's closely more resembling her game counterpart, but she also has that additional development that lets us say, you know what, I'm okay with Sonic being with Sally. And we saw a glimpse of that in issue 222, which was basically, 3 issues before 225, and 4 issues before the first Genesis wave in continuity. And it looks like Ian Flynn, whether we like Ian Flynn's decision making or not, kept that intact with the soft retcon and reboot. So that's what a lot of us look at. We look at the fact that here's an opportunity for it to happen, and a character like Amy wouldn't have, storyline-wise, wouldn't have a problem. I mean, Ian Flynn had Amy Rose acknowledge in issue 222 that yes, she still has feelings for Sonic. Yes, she believes Sonic will be hers someday, but if being with Sally makes him happy, that's fine with her because it makes her happy. Or something like that. Now, I don't want this video to go too long, but knowing me, it will. The fact of the matter is this. It doesn't matter how we look at the shipping problem, not just in Sonic. Oh, hold on for a second. Let me check something. Okay, not just in Sonic, but any other franchise we might be fans of. The thing is, it's always going to be there. It always will be. It always will be, no matter what. And that's why I've told people time and time again. In fact, I've typed it up in response to the shipping problem topic. I've talked about it here in audio videos. I've talked about it at any point I've got, including now. And that is, we have to look at this whole shipping situation in a similar way that is being looked at with the TMNT franchise, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle franchise. You see, in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, especially starting with the 2K series, mostly its finale, and then you kind of add in what they did with recently this past year with the Nickelodeon series. Basically, you got to look at it from that standpoint. Look at it at the standpoint that the game universe and the comic book universe, SatAM universe, are separate universes, separate zones. So if you're a Son-Amy fan, you should say the Son-Amy relationship is part of the gaming universe, part of the gaming zone, part of that the gaming dimension. It's based on the games in that universe, as well as Boom and all that. That the Son-Amy relationship is part of the gaming universe / Boom universe. And that the Sonic-Sally relationship is part of the Archie-Sonic comic universe / SatAM universe. You got to look at it like that. Like, basically, you got to look at it to make it easier and less stressful for people. You got to look at it from two different equations, two different perspectives. Basically, as if they're part of two different worlds. I mean, if Worlds Unite did not prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that there are other Sonic worlds out there with Styx being part of it, then I don't know what does. To me, the easiest thing to do, and the safest bet, in my opinion, to probably try to get something going again in the comics, is to have people like Ian Flynn, Aaliyah Baker, Tracy Yardlin, and anybody else working on the comic artistically or script-wise, to look at it from the fact that, okay, Archie's Sonic comic is a different universe, a different dimension, a different zone. The gaming universe is a different dimension, a different zone. Now, true, you might say, well, they say all these things that happen in the games have happened in the Archie universe. That's fine. You could have that happen, but you could differentiate by saying, okay, some of the game elements, some of the some of the games that have come out, yeah, some of the elements and histories have occurred already in the Archie Sonic comic universe. That's fine, but it's still a different universe because you could still have that same stuff happen over in the gaming universe and zone, and it wouldn't affect anything. The point is, if you look at it from that perspective, it works. If you take the Son-Amy relationship and say, okay, it's a game, it's based in the game, it's exclusive and based in the gaming universe, as well as maybe in the Boom universe, then fine. Keep it there, make it easier for yourself. And if you look at the Sonic-Sally relationship and you say, okay, that happens because it's a focal point and it's based in the Archie Sonic comic universe and the SatAM universe, then it makes it easier for yourself because you know that in a sense, okay, let's say they did a crossover one day and you had the Archie comic characters meeting the gaming characters, and let's say you wanted to go the relationship route and say, okay, we'll put Sonic and Amy together just for this, and you saw Sonic coming out hand in hand with Amy, meeting up with the Sonic from the Archie universe or the Archie Sonic universe, coming out hand in hand with Sally. You know, in a sense, in a way, it would make sense because it's like Amy's the equivalent of Sally over there. Sally is Sally over here. You kind of get the idea. Like if, you know, they did a Boom crossover, and they had Boom Amy hand in hand with Boom Sonic, and Sonic of Archie comics hand in hand with Sally. Basically, it's that kind of situation. It makes things less confusing and less stressful. I know it sounded confusing here, but that's the point I'm making. You don't want that confusion. You want to make it easier on yourself. You want to have some kind of common ground. And that common ground to end any kind of shipping problem with any kind of franchise, despite it having spin-offs or not, is you look at it as if some of the relationships are based out of different dimensions, based upon each other because they take place in other dimensions, other worlds. To me, that makes it a lot easier. So like I said earlier, if you took the Sonic-Sally relationship and said, okay, that's a focal point that takes place in the Archie-Sonic universe, and we just leave it there you go. You don't have to worry about it. Because if you're a gaming fan, you say, well, Sonic is with this girl named Sally in the comics. You could say, oh, that's an entirely different universe. That's like a different dimension. We don't worry about that. Sonic and Amy in the games, that's our priority. That's who we focus on. Or the same in Boom. It's like Sonic and Amy and Boom, that's who we focus on. It makes it easier, so you can at least, it makes it easier on yourself because you can at least say, okay, you know, Sonic and Sally are part of the Archie-Sonic universe. That's fine, we leave it there. Sonic, Amy, that's a priority. And vice versa. It's like if you're a fan of Sonic because of the comics and you say you support Sonic and Sally, and someone says, well, Sonic seems to be with Amy in the Boom universe, you could say, oh, well, that's the Boom universe. We don't worry about that. Sonic and Sally relationship in this Archie universe, Archie-Sonic universe, that's a priority. It makes it easier on you and everybody else. So, again, though, shipping problems don't just exist and focus on Sonic's universe all the time. You know, you look at Scooby-Doo. You look at X-Men. You look at Spider-Man, you look at Justice League, you look at Superman, you look at Batman, and you look at Harley Quinn. You know, you look at all these different characters and franchises out there. Avengers, you know, Teen Titans, Young Justice, Outsiders. You take a look at all these different franchises out there. All of them, if you will. And it does not matter which ones you support the most. Even freaking G.I. Joe goes through with it. My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, the Pony franchise itself goes through with it. Ninja Turtles, Transformers, believe it or not, Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, the list goes on and on. Digimon, if you will. Pokemon, maybe, for God's... I mean, it doesn't matter what franchise is which, or which franchise you support the most. Whether it's comic book, anime, movies, novels, doesn't matter. If you want a good example, Twilight. That, whatever it was, is a prime example. The thing is, it doesn't matter what you support. The shipping problems are always going to be around. Doesn't matter if you support this franchise or that franchise. Doesn't matter. They're always going to be around. Because fans are always going to want to ship who they feel is right for each other. Whether it's straight, whether it's lesbian, whether it's gay, it's bi, it's tri, it's whatever. They're going to ship them. Because they feel it's the best thing. And they're right for each other. So it doesn't matter what you're a fan of. The shipping problems are always going to be around. The best solution, if a franchise has different spin-offs, is to look at certain relationships as if they're part of different dimensions. That makes it easier. Like if you say Donatello and April relationship is part of the Nickelodeon universe, leave it at that. Casey and April is part of the Mirage universe, leave it at that. Get my drift? So, things like that. If you want, things like that is how you have to make it easier for yourself when it comes to a shipping problem that you look at from any kind of fandom for any kind of franchise. So, That's just my take on it. You guys let me know what you think down below. Comment if you like. I'm out.